and welcome to Broken Screens, the podcast where I analyse gaming. Now, the topic I will be talking about today is graphics versus aesthetics. Please bear with me as I do not have much material prepared for this topic. College for the last week or so has been absolutely hectic. I do have a little bit of gameplay to show you later on to illustrate part of my point. Now, the first thing we really have to realise is that although graphics can be bad, aesthetics may actually be good, and vice versa. Graphics are things like the texture quality in a game. Graphics are part of what shows the aesthetic of a game. The aesthetic is the game world and everything within it. This can include storyline, soundtrack, the general look and feel of the world. Graphics are not that important in a game. It is not hugely important to have amazing graphics in a game. However, it is extremely important to have a good aesthetic. I, and a lot of gamers I know, will not play a game unless it has a good aesthetic. I despise games that have bad aesthetics. I don't know much about graphics myself. How to improve the graphics of a game is beyond me, to be honest. I do not deal with that. I'm not involved in any game production at the moment. I do, however, know quite a bit about aesthetics. Having written for many years, I am a creative writer. That's my hobby. So I do know about creating an interesting and engaging world for my readers. It's much the same with game companies. They have to create an interesting world that will draw the player in. This is part of what makes a game really great. Now, some examples of games with very good graphics, but very poor aesthetics, include games such as Call of Duty Black Ops, The Darkness. Although that had some very good aesthetic decisions, the overall aesthetic wasn't all that good. And say, for example, Arcania Gothic 4, I believe was the name, came out on Xbox 360. The graphics of those games were very good. All the textures were very high quality, and everything looked decent. However, the aesthetic of those games wasn't up to par. However, some games with very good aesthetics, yet quite bad graphics, or not bad per se, but not quite up to standards of some games today, are games such as Muramasa, the Demon Blade. Now, I do have a bit of gameplay of this to show you, and I'll put it up on the screen now for however long it takes me to get to the end of the video. This game's aesthetic is, in my opinion, amazing. It literally feels like you're in a Japanese painting to me, and that is amazing. The soundtrack is also extremely good. It's a very, very fun game, actually, overall, and part of this is due to the aesthetic of the game. That is how important aesthetic is. Aesthetic can literally pull you into a game when it has nothing else going for it. Muramasa the Demon Blade has a lot going for it. It's very fun gameplay, but it is also made a ton better by the aesthetic of the game. Another game is Minecraft, which, while the graphics are, yes, very bad, the graphics are bad in that game. There's nothing more to say about that. The aesthetic, on the other hand, is very good. It appeals to a much broader audience because of the fact that it pulls in retro gamers as well. People remember when games weren't all about having the best graphics available. There was that. There was a focus on graphics, as there is today. However, the games were more about being creative and making a good, fun game that would sell well, rather than pushing your graphics to the limit and ending up with a boring aesthetic. Minecraft's aesthetic is that it looks like a retro game, albeit in 3D. This is a very good design decision, as it will pull in retro gamers, as I said before, and it will also pull in other gamers. They will think, well, if this game looks so bad, why does everyone enjoy it so much? And they will get it because it must have something going for it. Another game that has a very similar kind of aesthetic is Terraria. This was recently released for PC, and the aesthetic is fairly similar to Minecraft in 2D. Now, let me make myself entirely clear here. Terraria is not a rip-off of Minecraft. The aesthetic is fairly similar, albeit in 2D. However, the gameplay is different. They do share certain characteristics, but Terraria is more of an adventure game, whereas Minecraft is more of a building game with survival elements. I guess basically what I'm trying to say is the aesthetic can make or break a game, whereas the graphics do not. As consumers, there is not much we can do about this. This is something that games companies have to realize on their own. The reason I'm talking about this issue is to maybe inform some of you, so that next time you see a game with apparently poor graphics, maybe look at it and consider the aesthetic over the graphics. This has been Jeremy Fryer signing off. If you have any questions, please send them to the mailbox at brokenscreens@hotmail.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.